the President of the United States, accompanied by Senator Barbara Boxer. And the next governor, here he is, President Clinton. And the next governor of California, Kathleen Brown. All right. All right, let's hear it for the president. Are we ready to win on November the 8th? Fellow Democrats, Mr. President, welcome back to California. We want you to know, Mr. President, that California is Clinton country. Mr. President, you have worked for us. You have delivered for California. On November the 8th, everybody here, we're going to be working for you. We're going to deliver California for you and Kathleen Brown and Dianne Feinstein on November the 8th. We are celebrating here in the great city of Oakland. Celebrating here, thank you. Oakland, as we know, is a strong and dynamic city because it has a strong and dynamic mayor. It's rare. My fellow Democrats, it is rare that the state Democratic Party would ever endorse a candidate for mayor, but we endorsed Elihu Harris right off the bat because of the great job he's done for the city of Oakland. Please welcome your mayor, Elihu Harris.
Four years ago, I ran for mayor of the city of Oakland because we needed a change. We'd had years of stewardship in this city, in this state, and in this nation. 2 years ago, we saw the change at the national level we've been waiting for. Someone with courage, someone who was willing to take this country into the next century and to take all of us into the next century, not just the privileged few. That takes leadership and that takes courage. We have that kind of president, and that's why we're glad we're here today to celebrate Bill Clinton and the Democratic Party making a change in Oakland, making a change in California, making a change in America. There is a cynicism and an anger and a frustration that is happening in this city, this state, this nation, and is fueled by the evil, mean-spirited people that have run this country into the ground. We can't let them take over. We can't let them defeat the spirit and the energy of the people in the city and the people in the state of California. That's why we're here today. We believe in our president. We believe in this party. We believe in America. We believe in change, and we're going to work for that on Tuesday, November the 8th in Oakland, in Alameda County, and in California. Years ago, we were fighting a war in Vietnam that was wrong and evil, and many people didn't have the courage to stand up against the institutions of power that spoke out for war and not peace. This city, this congressional district, sent a man to Washington with that courage, with that integrity, with the intention to provide the leadership regardless of the odds, because he knew there had to be a change. Well, we have had that kind of representation. That man has stood up when times were bad, when the times were ugly, when the powers of evil and darkness were all against him, and when he stood alone, he stood with integrity and he stood with dignity. He stood for human rights, he stood for civil rights, he stood for dignity, he stood for peace. He stands for us. He is here today because he has the vision. He has had the vision and held the vision that all of us now see is absolutely necessary for this country. I am happy and pleased and privileged and humbled to have the opportunity to bring to you one of the most dynamic political leaders in America, the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, Ronald V. Dillon.
To my distinguished colleagues of the dais and sisters and brothers, on your behalf, I wish to speak to our very special guest today, the President of the United States, Bill Clinton. Mr. President, welcome back to the Bay Area. Mi casa es su casa. Thank you for being here. Mr. President, it has not gone unnoticed that this is not your first trip to our community. We thank you for coming back. We know you could have gone other places, but you have dignified the Bay Area a second time with your presence. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Mr. President, your return to our community, you're sending the Vice President of the United States to our community, sending members of your cabinet to our community, high-ranking officials to our community, underscores your caring, your compassion, and your unwavering commitment to help us solve the problems of the suffering people in this community. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we know that our community's attention has turned from one of governance now to one of campaigning. In that regard, in this period of unprecedented cynicism, anger, discontent, we want you to know that you sit on the stage in a community where people stand resolute, committed to idealism, optimism, and a sense of hope. We reject cynicism. We reject this anger. We reject this pain. Mr. President, we know that cynics do not change the world. It is those who have the audacity to dream that life can be different, that we can solve the problems, that we can make the world a better place for our children and our children's children. You stand in a community of dreamers and idealists and fighters and people who care. Mr. President, in this place, we remain committed to the ideals of peace. In this place, we continue to believe that you don't need to spend billions of dollars building a monument to military madness. We can address the problems of our people in this place, Mr. President. In this place, Mr. President, we come together because we believe that we can eradicate poverty and hunger and disease and inadequate education. We can address the problems of housing. We can stop our children from killing children. We can come together, Mr. President. We are the dreamers. We are the idealists. We are the fighters, Mr. President, in this place. We believe in the words, Mr. President, of the Constitution of the United States. That's why we reject Proposition 187. It's rooted in ignorance, rooted in fear, rooted in arrogance. So, Mr. President, when you speak here this afternoon, feel free to stretch out. Feel free to say what is in your heart and what is on your mind. Mr. President, in this place, we know that if Nelson Mandela could walk out of prison after 27 years and 4 years later become the president of South Africa, we can change America and we can change the world. Mr. President, we are encouraged by your presence. We are emboldened by your presence. We are inspired by your presence. We were inspired at another time, at a different place, by a magnificent, prophetic, courageous, and eloquent leader. His name was the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. He made many brave and courageous and eloquent, thoughtful statements. One of them, he said very simply and very profoundly, that the most revolutionary act that any group could engage in this country is to assert the full measure of their citizenship. I heard that, Mr. President, and I wrote it down. Revolutionary act is simply any act designed to achieve significant change. To assert oneself is to step forward boldly. Citizenship speaks to your rights, your privileges, your prerogatives, and your duties as a citizen. You are much braver and much stronger when you step forward saying, I am a citizen, as opposed to, I believe I'm a citizen. Mr. President, on election day in this place, we are going to step forward boldly in the name of significant change and defeat the voices of reaction and give you a magnificent victory, because you need it, we need it, our children and our children's children need it. Get pumped, Mr. President. This is a fantastic audience, a fantastic place. You in this room 24 years ago sent me to the United States Congress. We came from a generation We came from a generation that was impatient. They said from the 60s, what do you want? We said freedom. When do you want it? We said now. The peace movement, what do you want? Peace. When do you want it? Now. So in 1971, they sent me there to kick the doors open. We thought, as a 100-meter sprinter, we wanted freedom and peace now. But Mr. President, in Washington, D.C., they taught me two incredible lessons, one of humility and one of patience. I had to stop training as a sprinter and had to learn how to be a marathon runner. Well, after you elect me this one more time, that'll be 26 years. How many miles does it take to run a marathon? 26 miles. So give all of us this victory. Give Elihu the victory. Give the president the victory. Give Dianne Feinstein the victory. Give Kathleen Brown the victory. Mr. President, let me conclude with this. This has been the most incredible journey of my life to represent the people assembled in this room. It is the highest honor and the greatest privilege to get up every day making life and death decisions. This is serious business. You in this room, let us not allow ourselves to be overcome with cynicism. Let's continue to be hampered only by the vision of our dreams. Mr. President, thank you for being here. My last act is to introduce a fighter, is to introduce a colleague, is to introduce someone who joins us in the recognition of the magnificence of the human spirit, the oneness of the human condition, someone who went to Washington the same way we did to make a difference. That person is here today, continuing to fight to make a difference. Let's give an East Bay warm welcome to the junior senator from the state of California, Barbara Boxer.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. Ron Dellums, thank you for sending Ron Dellums to the Congress, and keep sending him back, please, for as long as he's willing to serve. It is just so great to be here. I'm standing on, this is a dangerous podium. You know, when they built these for presidents, they never figured 5 feet tall women would ever stand behind them. So I'm on a box and 2 telephone books. Otherwise, I'd look like Queen Elizabeth did. Remember when she spoke in Yota? Ron Dellums, that was the most exquisite speech. When I ran for the Senate, there weren't too many folks who said, Barbara, go for it, you can do it. Ron Dellums was one of those people. And I'll never forget, he said to me, you just go out there and be yourself. And even if they don't agree with everything you do, they'll respect you and they'll vote for you. And you know what? He's the mentor that taught me that. He and George Miller and other wonderful people that you have sent from the East Bay, and I thank you for that. And Pete Stark, I hasten to add. You know, I want to talk about this election, because I love elections. Tony knows that. I got news for you. They're getting worried in the Wilson camp. They're getting worried. First of all, they're getting worried because Kathleen has pulled within 4 points of Pete Wilson. Secondly, they're getting worried because Proposition 187 is falling like the stock market under George Bush. Oh, they're getting worried. They're getting worried because people are beginning to take a second look at these choices. And they're taking a second look at this president. And he is turning the economy around and the country around. And Pete Wilson's getting worried. But now what's really getting them worried is you. And let me tell you why. And it dovetails on what Ron Dellum spoke about. Yesterday, the Secretary of State said, by the way, his name is Tony Miller, we got to vote for him. The Secretary of State said, no, the turnout wouldn't be 30% in California on Election Day. Well, it wouldn't be 40% turnout on Election Day. And you know, it wouldn't be 50% on Election Day. He is predicting the voter turnout in California will be 60% on Election Day, and we're gonna win. We're gonna win. Because when the people vote, we Democrats win, because we're for the people. Aren't you proud to be a Democrat? Aren't you proud? Now, I also want to tell you that Huffington is getting worried. With all his money, spend it all, Michael. Spend it all. He's getting worried too. He has spent $30 million of his own money telling people when he gets to the Senate, he'll do nothing. And now people believe it, and he's going down in the polls. I've nicknamed him Michael Nothington. He's done nothing and he doesn't want to do anything. Now, we want a candidate to win this race for Senate who will do something, and guess what? We have a couple who are working hard, and one of them is facing the voters again, and she has proven herself beyond belief, getting the assault weapons ban through, keeping guns out of school, and getting the only environmental legislation through the Senate, and her name is Dianne Feinstein. Yes! And she told me to tell you today that she sends her love to you, that she's campaigning in Southern California, where she really needs to get her polls up like they are here in the Bay Area. And I'm asking you, can she count on your support on Tuesday? All right. I will tell her. Now, I get to have a wonderful task. And that is to introduce a very special woman to you. You guessed it right. I got to work my way into it, though. We are so proud of this woman. Her courage, her tenacity, and her fight. And I got to tell you something. It's a pretty simple statement. But you take it to your neighbors, and here it is. Pete Wilson doesn't deserve to be re-elected. It's simple, it's straightforward, and it's true. When you fail in school, you repeat. When you fail as governor, no repeat. No repeat. No repeat. It's good. Oh, you're good. You trained him well, Ron. And anyone who tries to get elected on the backs of 187. And that's the backs of sick people and innocent children, deserves to be completely defeated at the polls, overwhelmingly. Can you make sure that happens? Ladies and gentlemen, we have a great Democratic candidate for governor. A woman who has a plan, a real vision to make California the golden state again. Will you give the most enthusiastic welcome to the next governor of the state of California, Kathleen Brown? Sacramento. And is California ready for a woman governor? Yes, yes, yes. Well, do I have a candidate for you? The name is Brown. I am a Democrat, and I am a woman ready to take this state back for you, the people, the students, the people of this state, for a change. Now, Senator Boxer, that was one hot introduction. I want to thank you for that. I have to confess, one other introduction needs to be told because I see some people that haven't heard it before. And it's an introduction which I received just 2 years ago when I was campaigning for Senator Boxer and Senator Feinstein and President Clinton before they were senator, and president. And it was a great campaign year for the Democrats and a great campaign year for California and a great campaign year for America. And I was in Eureka, the northern part of this state. I found it. Eureka is what it means. Well, a newswoman introduced me on her evening news as California State Treasurer Kathleen Brown, the sister of Jerry Brown, and the daughter of Willie Brown. Now, I tell you that story because I am proud to be a Brown, and I am proud of all the Browns. And I tell you that story because the man I am running against and the man you will help me defeat has no plan to rebuild California, has no record to run on, has no clue about California. He has spent the last 2 years spending millions of dollars advertising in nasty, negative little television spots, telling the people I'm Jerry Brown's sister. It's okay. I'm proud of it. He's even called me Pat Brown's daughter. I'm proud of that too. He's even called me a Democrat, and I am proud of that too because California has had enough of tax and spend republicanism from Pete Wilson. The people of California have a choice in this election, a choice between me, Kathleen Brown,
with a plan to rebuild California by saving and investing in the things you and I know we need: jobs, not McDonald's jobs, but McDonnell Douglas jobs. Investing in schools, because if you can't learn, you aren't gonna learn, you aren't gonna earn. And telling the people of California we gotta invest in higher education again, in our students. You are our future. And what has Pete Wilson done? The only time he talks about schools is when he's gonna cut them. And if he doesn't talk about cutting, he talks about raising your tuition. I pledge to freeze your tuition and fees this year. And yes, those savings need to go back. They need to go back into making our streets safe with tough but smart laws, like the crime bill that President Clinton fought for, Senator Feinstein fought for, Senator Boxer fought for, Congressman Dellums fought for, the Democrats fought for, because it was a piece of legislation that was about tough laws, but it was about smartness as well. They called it pork. To have kids playing midnight basketball. I'd rather have them shooting hoops, wouldn't you, than shooting up and shooting in drive-bys. And we got, with the courageous leadership of those Democrats and Republicans who came on board, we finally got a ban on the sale and the manufacture of assault weapons. We have that law now. Now, this election is about much more than just my plan. And it's about much more than just passing legislation. This election is a crossroads election for the people of California, and I think for the people of the United States of America, because it is an election about our values and who we are and what kind of leaders we want. Do we want leaders who bully and bash and blame? No. We want builders, we want dreamers, we want doers. That's the kind of leadership we want. There are two kinds of politicians I've figured out in the last couple of months. I've known it before, but never have I seen it more evidently than in this election. There are those kinds of people who run for public office and seek higher office and use issues just to hold on to power and to keep power. And then there are those who run for office and seek higher office to use power to address the issues that everyday folks care about. We have a president, we have senators, we have elected officials on this stage today on the Democratic team. And I can say to you with confidence that each and every one of them has dedicated themselves in the public life that they are in to use the awesome powers of public office to make our lives in California better, to make lives better for students, to make lives better for families, to make our lives better for working men and women. That is what the responsibilities and obligation of power is all about. And then there are others. There are others who see issues as their ticket to hold on to office. And nowhere is that more evident than in California today with Proposition 187. Think about it. Think about what that initiative is about. It's about dividing us dividing us in California based upon the color of our skin, based upon what our last names might be, whether we have an accent or not. It's an initiative that was put on the ballot by those of narrow vision and mean spirit, those who don't have, as Ron Dellum said, the audacity to dream. They have the audacity to suggest that California would turn the clock back and go back to those times in our history when our leaders failed us, because Proposition 187 is about discrimination. It is about discrimination, and there is no two ways about it. It happens. It's not a surprise. Read your history books every time there's a tough economic time and you have a leader with no vision and a leader with no record and a leader with no guts. They'll pick on somebody who can't fight back, and they'll try and pass laws and try and make things hurt, and that's not right. And let me tell you, I'm proud to be a Californian, but I'm not always proud of what our history has been about. We need to remember history so we will not repeat it. We need to remember what we did as a state in the last century to the Chinese when they finished building the railroads and came to San Francisco, to Oakland and the East Bay. We passed laws that said they could not work and could not hold jobs because people were scared and people were angry, and it was tough economic times. And then in the same period, the end of the last century, to the Japanese in the Central Valley, we passed laws that said the Japanese could not own land because people were scared and people were angry. And in the 1930s, in this great state of California, we looked at people from Arkansas and from Oklahoma and Texas, and we said, no, go back, don't come here. And we looked at people who were brown-skinned, who were Mexican and Mexican-American, and you may not remember it, but I remember reading of it. We put those people in boxcars and we moved them back to Mexico because people were scared and people were angry, and that was wrong. And in the 1940s, we did it again. We did it to the Japanese when we were scared and we were angry, and we took the Japanese and Italian Americans, and they were shipped to internment camps. That is what is done when people are scared and people are angry, when there are not leaders who have the audacity to dream and the audacity to say no and to say it's wrong. We must defeat 187, and we must defeat those who brought it to us. Woo! It has been said that any old jackass can burn a barn down, but it takes a carpenter and a builder to build that barn up. California has been burned. California has been brought down. California has been hurting. Californians are angry. They're frustrated. But I know Californians have the audacity to dream, the audacity to hope, the audacity to believe that in diversity we are stronger and in unity we are better. And I say to you, we will not let those of narrow vision defeat us. opportunity. We have an opportunity on November 8th. We have an opportunity to send a message, not just to those in California that are watching, but an opportunity to send a message across this land and all across this world, a world that is torn apart by racial strife and ethnic strife and tribalism, a world that's struggling to come together in a post-Cold War era, a time for a message to be sent, and a message not of hate, not of fear, not of anger, not of frustration, but a message of hope and promise and tolerance and unity. That is what our dream of California has always been about. So I ask you to join me in the next 3 days and beyond to make history in California, and help me turn those lights on. The lights on so the fears will go away, the demons will be put to rest. Turn the lights on to bring back the dream of California. Let us show the way. Let us turn the lights on and bring back California. Will you help me restore that dream? Will you help me restore that promise? We can do it. God bless you, and let us win on Tuesday. Because we cannot afford 4 more years. It's your future. Let's go get it. And now I have the greatest honor today to introduce to you a builder, a carpenter, a dreamer, a man of vision and substance who knows how to use power to make our lives richer and better, the President of the United States, William Jefferson Clinton.
Give her another hand. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Give Kathleen Brown another hand. Wasn't she great? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's nice to be back in Oakland. Thank you. Thank you. Senator Boxer, thank you for your leadership in the Senate for your energy, your enthusiasm, your passion, your friendship. California is richly blessed to have Barbara Boxer and Dianne Feinstein in the United States Senate. Congressman Stark, Congresswoman Woolsey, Mayor Harris, and a special word of thanks to my friend, the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, your Congressman Ron Dellums. I wish every one of you who live in Ron Dellums' district had the opportunity to travel to Washington to watch him in action, to see the way he balances the best of politics, the way he passionately sticks up for what he believes in, and still runs his committee in a fair way, the way he is unfailingly decent and fair to people who disagree with him, people who are in other parties, people who are on diametrically opposed sides of the issue. That is the best of American politics. We ought to get back to it, to treating each other with respect, to building up this country. Folks, before I get into my speech and give you a lot of chance to cheer again, I'm going to ask you to do something that normally we wouldn't do at a Democratic rally. And I want you to be very quiet and listen to me for a minute, because this is important. One of the worst things that's going on in our country today is this incredible meanness of spirit that is being promoted among people who differ with each other. And I want us to set that aside just for a moment while I make this announcement. A few moments ago today, President Reagan announced that he was suffering from Alzheimer's disease. And when he said that, it touched my heart in a particular way, because I went to visit him after I was elected president, and he talked to me for a long time. It was a fascinating conversation, but once in the middle of the conversation, he said, "You know, I forgot what I was talking about, and it really makes me mad." You know, we've disagreed on a lot of things over the years, all of us have, with Mr. Reagan, but he always fought with a sense of optimism and spirit. And in the days since he left the White House, I have to say that he's been willing to put partisanship aside to stand up for our country. He helped me on the trade agreement with Mexico. He stood up for the assault weapons ban, for the Brady Bill. He and his wife stood up against Oliver North in Virginia. They were capable of putting aside partisanship. And so, having nothing to do with any of those issues, I want every one of you in this room now to give Ronald Reagan a hand and wish him well and Godspeed as he deals with this illness. Ladies and gentlemen, I come here with all these fine nominees of the Democratic Party, with my good friend, Insurance Commissioner Garamendi, with Lieutenant Governor McCarthy, with so many others who are here, to ask you to think about your future. I come here on behalf of Dianne Feinstein and Kathleen Brown. I can put in a couple of sentences why I hope they will both win on Tuesday. First, let me tell you about Senator Feinstein. I've been watching the scene in Washington for a long time, although I never worked there before 21 months ago. In 21 months, only 21 months, Dianne Feinstein has, as a freshman senator, sponsored the biggest wilderness bill in American history, the California Desert Bill, which I signed last week. Sponsored a bill that requires every school in the country getting federal aid to have a zero tolerance for handguns, which will do more to get guns out of our schools and make our kids safe than anything else. And taken on the powerful NRA, which is trying to get revenge on every single person that had the courage to vote for the assault weapons ban. No one has done anything like that in my lifetime in that short a period of time. Now, if 21 months with that kind of results doesn't get you a 6-year contract, I don't know what could commend the voters for Dianne Feinstein. I don't know what else you could do. What is the campaign against her? 100% negative ads by someone who says, I moved to California in '91, I bought myself a Congress seat. 8 months later, I started running for the Senate. When I ran for the Senate, I lost my own congressional district in the Republican primary, but that doesn't matter. I'm just running against the other person. You don't have to know anything about me. Are you going to vote for somebody who produced for you or somebody who is playing to your fears? Vote for somebody who worked for you, who will work for you in the future, who cares about you, not someone who cares about the job, someone who cares about what the job can do for you. And with Kathleen Brown, it's a simple choice, really, isn't it? You have a builder and a blamer. You know, very often, blamers make you feel better. Sometimes when we're frustrated and we're down and we want to get angry and we want to lash out, a blamer makes us feel better. They give us somebody to be mad at. And they want you to vote mad this time, folks. They do want you to vote mad. Now, as a parent, the older I get, the more I realize the wisdom of my mother who raised me. As soon as your children get old enough to understand, the first thing you try to tell them is, never, never make a decision when you're mad. How many of us were told on our mother's and father's knee, when you're mad, count to 10 before you say anything? How many times did we find ourselves so upset we were incapable of taking our parents' advice, and so we started talking at about 2 instead of 10. And every single time we did it, we regretted it. And if you do it this time, you will regret it. Don't regret it. Vote for a builder, not a blamer. Vote for Kathleen Brown. Give California a better future. You know, you have a simple choice on Tuesday. If you vote your anger, your fears, your frustrations, you'll be voting for a crowd that is committed to take us back to what they did before, to the trickle-down economics of the 1980s, to the neglect of our most profound problems. Or you can vote to keep going forward. Sure, we've still got problems, but let me ask you this. 21 months ago, when California and the rest of this country sent me to Washington, you did with a commitment to rebuild this country, to make government work for ordinary people, to bring the economy back, to try to make a more peaceful and prosperous world for us to live and work in, and for our children to bring the 21st century in with. And even though we still got problems, folks, this country's in better shape than it was 21 months ago. Yesterday, unemployment figures came out, a 3-year low in California, a 4-year low in the United States. We're going in the right direction. Let's don't turn back now. I have been dedicated to making this country strong. What makes a country strong? Strong families, strong communities, strong schools, safe streets, good jobs, a strong foreign policy that makes us more secure, more prosperous, and promotes peace and freedom. We're making progress on all fronts. We're getting stronger. Let's don't give in to our weaknesses. Let's stand up for our strengths. And we are getting stronger together. In the government and the country of my dreams, there is room for all of us. We reach across all lines. Everybody's got a seat at the table of America. This is the most diverse and still the most excellent commitment that this administration has made more than any other. We have people from all walks of life, from all backgrounds, of all colors in the administration moving America forward together, and we ought to keep doing it just that way. You know, when I took office, we were dealing with 30 years of accumulated social problems. You know it as well as I do. We see it today in the violence, the gangs, the guns. We see it sometimes in heartbreaking pictures, like those 10-year-old boys that dropped that 5-year-old to his death at the high-rise in Chicago. But they did not happen overnight. They have been building on us for 30 years. We were dealing with 20 years of accumulated economic problems for ordinary Americans, the stagnation of wages, the frequent loss of jobs, the constant threat of losing your health insurance, your retirement, and other benefits. This has been building up for 20 years. For 12 years, the American people attempted to address it with an entirely different theory of politics and economics. We called it trickle-down for short, but the basic idea was you could increase spending in some areas, cut taxes, especially for the wealthy, sit on the sidelines, and let nature take its course. Well, it didn't work. In the last 4 years, before I took office, we had the slowest job growth since the Great Depression, and we were not doing what it took to compete and win in the 21st century, to make it an American century, to guarantee the American dream for all these children that are up here in this audience today. That is the fact that we face. And I took office saying, look, folks, there had been a big debate about the role of government. I don't think government is inherently good or bad. It is a reflection of us. The question is, what should it do? And what should we do? In my judgment, the obligation of our government is to create opportunity, to empower people to take advantage of it, and then to insist that you, as individuals and communities, assume the responsibility to take yourselves together into the future and to live up to the fullest of your God-given capacities. Now, our opponents believe, and I must say this year, our opponents in the other party represent a more extremist point of view on the whole than at any time in my experience. They say that government is inherently bad, that anything it touches, it makes worse. I don't know how they explain Social Security or Medicare. I don't know how they explain the student loan program. I don't know how they explain a lot of things, but they say anything the government does is worse. Therefore, if anything good happens while Mr. Clinton is president, it happened by accident or in spite of what he did. And they say, since we're not going to do anything anyway, it doesn't matter how outrageous our comments are, because we're probably kidding. We won't do anything. Now, in a cynical time, this has appeal, because people say it doesn't make a difference. Well, folks, where I come from, they say, if you find a turtle on a fence post, it didn't get there by accident. So, you tell me if we have made America stronger. For strong families, I believe it made a difference when 4.9 million Californians were protected with a family and medical leave laws so they could get a little time off when a sick baby or a sick parent was there. And I think it made a difference when 2.1 million California families got income tax cuts because they were working hard with kids in the house and they had modest wages, and we didn't want them in poverty. I think it made a difference when we immunized all the kids in this country under the age of 2 by 1996. That will make a difference to the future of our families. I think it made a difference when we said people who are dealing with AIDS are part of our family, and we quadrupled housing funds, we doubled research, we fully funded the Ryan White Act. I think that made a difference and made us stronger. I think it made a difference when we expanded Head Start and when we changed the way we give money to the local school districts to take all these federal rules and regulations off and said, we now think all kids can learn without regard to their color or their income. Go ahead and teach them all and have high expectations for all of them and let them all rise up. We're not going to segregate them anymore and tell them they can't learn because they're poor. I think it will make a difference as we set up national systems of apprenticeships for young people who don't go to college but do want to be in good jobs. I think it'll make a difference when we qualify 20 million Americans for lower cost college loans so that everybody can afford to go to college and stay there. Here in the Bay Area, I think you know it makes a difference that our national service program is making it possible over the next 3 years for 100,000 young Americans to serve their country, to solve community problems, and earn the money to go to college. I think that makes a difference. I think our streets will be safer because of the Brady Bill and the crime bill, because of the police, the punishment, the prisons, the prevention, and the assault weapons ban. I think it will make a difference, and I think you do too. I think it makes a difference that we reduced our deficit and increased our investment in new technologies and defense conversion. I think it makes a difference that we reduced the size of the government and gave all the money to people to fight crime in their neighborhoods. I think it makes a difference. And you know something? It did. It did. This economy has produced 5 million jobs in the last 21 months. This year, we had more high-wage jobs coming into America than in the previous 5 years combined. I think it makes a difference that you had an administration that said we're not going to sit by and watch California just die because of the base closings, so we're going to give the Alameda Naval Station to the Port of Oakland so they can build it up and create jobs and go forward. And we're going to invest. We're going to make the Presidio a national park. We're going to invest in laboratories like Stanford and Livermore. We're going to create the high-wage jobs of the future. We're going to rebuild shipbuilding. We're going to keep the airline industry afloat. We're going to do things that help California and help America. We're going to sell our computers from California all over the world. That has made a difference. Don't tell me that we're not stronger and it doesn't make a difference. It does make a difference. I hear them. They say it doesn't make a difference. I think it makes a difference that for the first time since the dawn of the nuclear age, there are no Russian nuclear missiles pointed at these children here. That makes a difference. I think it makes a difference that North Korea says they won't be a nuclear power. I think it makes a difference that we're expanding trade to Mexico and building friendship instead of enmity. I think it makes a difference that we have democracy and freedom in Haiti again. I think it makes a difference. I think it makes a difference that our young men and women in uniform went to the Gulf with lightning speed to stand up to Saddam Hussein, and it makes a difference that the United States is involved in peace in the Middle East and in Northern Ireland and in helping South Africa to make its elections and its democracy a success. It does make a difference. They are wrong when they say the government is inherently bad and it doesn't make a difference. So what is it that they want? Well, for America, they want their contract. Their contract is, oh, listen, it sounds good. Here we are just a few days before the election. It's like music to your ears. It says, the government is really bad, so we will give everybody a tax cut, but almost all of it will go to people in the upper 2% of incomes. But we'll give the rest of you a couple of bucks so you don't boo so loud. And then we will have a big increase in defense, and we will bring back Star Wars, and we will balance the budget. So we said to them when they said this was their contract, well, what does this cost? $1 trillion. Now, folks, even in big old California, $1 trillion is real money. I could take every one of you out on the town tonight for $1 trillion and have money left over. We could have a good time on $1 trillion. Well, how are you going to pay for this $1 trillion, we ask? They said, we'll tell you after the election. That sounds familiar. We're going to raise spending, cut taxes, balance the budget. We'll tell you later. Now, here's the fact, folks. I've been fooling with these budgets for 2 years. I have given you 3 years of deficit reduction for the first time since Truman. I know something about these budgets. I know something about these budgets. And here is what is going to happen. If they win the Congress, here is what happens. In order to keep their promises to balance the budget, cut taxes, increase spending, they have to cut everything else 20% across the board. Social Security, college loans, Medicare, you name it. The farmers in the valley, everybody, anybody that gets any help, 20% cut. That's $2,000 per Social Security recipient a year. And if they say, well, oh, no, we didn't say we would cut Social Security. They didn't say they wouldn't do it either. We say, okay, if you take Social Security off, then you have to cut everything else 30%. A 30% cut in college aid, in Medicare, and everything else. It will eviscerate some of the things that keep this country going. Now, there's always the chance that they're kidding. That's what happened last time. They were kidding. So they'll just give you the goodies and they won't pay for it. Then what will happen? The deficit will go up. We'll start shipping our jobs overseas again. We'll put the economy in the ditch again. Tell them no thank you on your contract. We want a strong America, not a weak America. We want to be strong, not weak. And in California, what is their program? Their sole program is, I don't have any program for the future. I want you to give me a contract for the next several years based on a vote you're going to take. So I don't have to do anything. I want you to vote for 187 and vote for me because I'm for it, they say, and give me a 4-year contract, and I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do. I just want you to be mad, vote for 187, and give me a paycheck for 4 years. Now, what is wrong with 187? Let me ask you to think about this. First of all, it is not wrong for you to want to reduce illegal immigration. And it is not wrong for you to say it is a national responsibility, not just a state responsibility. And Senator Boxer and Senator Feinstein and I, we tried to work with the governor without regard to party to deal with this issue. We have nearly doubled the border guards in San Diego. We have nearly doubled the number of people convicted of crimes we have sent back home. We have given money for the very first time to pay for the cost of imprisonment. When we are shrinking the federal budget, we have given a 1/3 increase to the state of California in the money we're giving you to deal with the cost of immigration. We should do more, but folks, we have done a lot, and the crowd before us didn't hit a lick at it. We have really tried to help. Now, we need to do more, and we will, but 187 puts the cart before the horse. In fact, it puts the cart way out there so the horse can't find it. 187 says, let's be real mad and take it out on the kids. Let's don't let any of these kids go to the health clinic, but they might get sick. And then they might make everybody else sick that lives around them. Well, we'll worry about that later. We're mad now. 187 says every teacher's got to be a police officer. Go check all these kids. And if you find a kid who's in an undocumented family, just put them out on the street. And we say, but we already got enough kids on the street. We need the kids on the street to come back and go to school, not the other way around. But they say, no, we'll worry about that later. We're mad now. We want you to be mad now, and worry about that later. So that's what's going on. They got a contract that says, here's $1 trillion worth of promises. Take this sweet thing now. Worry about the details later. Here's this 187. Be mad now. Worry about the details later. Folks, if you want to build, not blame, you got to worry about the details now. You got to care about the kids now. You got to think about the future now. Let's build, not blame. Let's do the right thing. Let's vote for Kathleen Brown and Dianne Feinstein and against 187. We can do it. We can do it. You know, thank you. I want you to think about this. You heard what Kathleen said when she closed her speech about turning the lights on in California? This whole deal all across America, and certainly here, this whole election, these elections are so close in so many states, this whole thing will come down to the spirit that is welling up inside the voters of this country on Election Day. This whole thing will come down to that. You know what an election is like? It's like everybody has equal power. And you might imagine that you wake up on election morning and you're looking at the television, and the movie on the television is the story of America. And you got this remote control in your hand. And you can push forward, you can push fast forward, you can just leave it fixed, or you can push reverse. What they hope is that you'll stay home, and then a bunch of folks will push reverse. What I hope is you'll say, this is my movie, I'm pushing forward. This is my movie, I'm pushing forward. My fellow Americans, this election is something that is outside the normal course of American history. In the depths of the Depression, when 1 in 4 Americans was out of work, our great President Franklin Roosevelt told the American people, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. These people who our opponents say in this election, well, even though the Democrats are facing our problems and we're making progress, we want you to vote your fears and give us power. Look at what the Republican presidents, the great ones in the past, said. Teddy Roosevelt said, the credit belongs to the person in the arena, the person who is trying to deal with the problems of the day. These folks say, in this Senate race, this says, punish the people in the arena, put me in, and I won't try at all. That's the complaint. You look at what that greatest of all Republican, perhaps our greatest president, Abraham Lincoln, said, with malice toward none, with charity for all, let us move on to finish the work we are in. These folks say, we're going to have malice toward anybody that gets in our way and try to stop us from finishing the work we're in and keep everybody in a turmoil from now till kingdom come so we can be in office. President Lincoln said that we had to be driven by the better angels of our nature. They say, if we can keep people in a foul mood, we'll be home on Election Day. President Lincoln said, our government was of, by, and for the people. They say if we can just keep people mad enough, they'll stay away from the polls or they'll vote for us. We'll go back to government of, by, and for the organized interest and the favored few. Folks, that is the choice here. It is a deep and profound thing. It goes way beyond all the details. This cynicism, this negativism, this country ever got anywhere on this. These kids are here today because for more than 200 years, every time we had a pivotal choice to make, we voted for the future. Every time people tried to get us to go back, every time people tried to divide us, every time people tried to get us to vote our fears, every time people tried to get us to be angry, we said no. This is America. This is the greatest country in human history. We are one nation under God, together, going forward. You do that, and we'll be home Tuesday night. Thank you, and God bless you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Folks, I was supposed to be introduced by someone that was our special guest for you, who didn't get here because of the weather, but she has now arrived. I want you to join me in welcoming the star of Living Single, who rocked the vote in 1992, Queen Latifah.
than I could ever dream of in my life as a human on the planet. This is unbelievable. You know, I missed my flight because a lady at the airport really didn't want me to get here. You know she was a Republican. I'm telling you. But by the grace of God, we're here. And I can't say anything more than they have said to you already today. All I know is we can have the power that we need to have. And it's all about registering and getting out there, getting people in office who care about us, not about themselves and not about the people who already have the money and the power, who really want to give it back to us, the people, who care about our futures. All right? The young people too, the youth. If we don't get out there and show that we care about our futures, then nobody is going to care about our futures. So I'm speaking not only to all the people who are older than myself, but all the people who are younger than myself, 24 and under, the 18-year-olds, the 19-year-olds, the 20-year-olds, the high school seniors who can still vote. Get out there and vote for people who care about us and our future. It's about a Democratic ticket. It's about a Democratic ticket. I'm proud to be a Democrat because I'm proud to be about people who care about this country and about our future. That's all I have to say. Thank you.